Good afternoon, everyone. This is the October meeting of the Community Issues Committee of Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council. We do not at the moment have a quorum. We will, and I know at least one person on our committee will not be here. So we will wait for a bit. I think Chuck, Victor, without objection, I think Chuck could go ahead with his public comment.
Oh, sure.
Chuck, if you'd talk about what you had written about, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. The Greenbelt Park, I think it goes back dated. I wish I could remember the date, but anyway, I can't. But it's been at least 5 years, I believe. Part of the agreement with the China shipping lawsuit was that any project that was resulting from that lawsuit for public that was built by the port had to be maintained by the port. Well, the park itself is being maintained pretty nicely, but part of the project included curbside planting of trees all the way from Westmont Drive down to can't think of the name, Gatun Street. In my last count, there was something like 30 some trees of those that were planted in this, actually in distress. Looks like they're about ready to die. There are probably, I don't have a count because you can't drive by there and make a count because the traffic, is so fast. But anyway, there's at least 7 trees that have never been replanted, just a void in the sidewalk. So altogether, I think there's about 34 trees that are in distress, about ready to die. The port at the last neighborhood council meeting of the Planning and Land Use Committee, Augie was there and acknowledged that they're aware of the problem. And I know they are because I've been working with Augie for 3 years, trying to get the trees healthier. So that the 3 years and the progress of 30 some trees now in distress, basically sound like a laissez-faire attitude on the port to live up to its commitment to keep the park looking well. So I'm just going to, if I can just read one statement I made to summarize this. Approximately 3 years ago, 4 of the trees were replaced, and they have outgrown those of the original planting, apparently because they were a different type tree. Those trees are at least 4 or 5 times bigger than the original ones. If you drive by there and notice, you'll see they have to trim them back for the truck traffic to get under them. So what was originally a beautification project has turned into a dying, non-uniform, tree-lined gateway eyesore to our San Pedro community. Hardly the community aesthetic mitigation project agreed to in the China shipping mitigation agreement. That summarizes my attitude toward this and the fact that something needs to be done. So despite the fact that the port has been aware of the problem for years, they still have no explanation for what is causing the problem. Could it be lack of water or disease? At the last meeting, I said there could be water. The port said they believe it's disease. Well, I add to this now, could some type of garden food be poisoning them? Or should some idiot be putting nails in them, copper nails in them? Could it be related to, or could it be related to some soil contamination resulting from a leak of one of the more of the numerous pipelines running underground in that area? There are pipelines running underground right under those trees. That, if you're, my criminal mind says maybe that's why they don't want to do anything about it. It's too expensive. I don't know. But anyway, Whatever the cause, it should have been identified and resolved by now. Maintenance of these projects are required by the China Shipping Settlement Agreement. There are growing concerns in the community regarding the port's apparent laissez-faire attitude in addressing this problem. Please encourage action on this issue as soon as possible. And that was addressed to Augie and the port, as well as the neighborhood council. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Chuck. We'll follow that with a referral to an appropriate committee, as you have indicated. Thank you. And by the way, just for the record, those trees that they have to trim so trucks can go underneath them, those are the best trimmed trees in the city, I think. They look good.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Chuck. I see that we have a guest, Mr. Doug Epperhart. Always happy to see Doug with us, or to sense his presence, even if we don't see him. Thank you, Doug.
Got his hand up.
His hand is up.
Yes.
Oh, Doug, good evening. Speak, please.
I'm speaking, which apparently you're speaking. I just wanted to let you know, it took me a bit to get in because the webinar number that's posted is incorrect. So I don't know if anybody else is trying to get into the meeting, but they're probably not able to.
Oh,
Just, you might want to check on that.
any thoughts, Victor?
Looking at the agenda itself, it has two numbers, one in the link and one down below in the webinar ID, if you're calling in.
Yeah, no, what happens is you click on the link and then it asks you to type in the webinar ID number. You put that number in and it tells you it's an invalid number.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and the number you want, if you look at the link, it has the correct number in the link,
Right.
but it asks you to retype a number, and the number that it gives you to type is not the link number.
And I don't remember that J being part of the link either, but
Oh, it is. It is.
okay.
But what should happen is if you click on that, it should take you directly into the meeting, and it doesn't. It asks you to type it.
Yeah.
Which
that-
I don't know why it does it for you guys. Maybe you might want to check with
Well,
Christina.
panelists have a different link, so
Ah,
that could be why, but I'm gonna check. We don't have to linger on this, but I'm gonna check.
no. I just wanted to mention it.
No,
I mean, if you're familiar with Zoom, it's easy to figure out, but
yeah,
it took me a minute.
I'm gonna check the link on one of the other meetings that I do an agenda for and see what the link looks like, because like I said, I don't recall that J being in there, but maybe it's just wedged in. But yeah, that could be why we don't have people, but the panelists should be, I mean, the committee people should be here because they should be coming in with the panelist link that they were emailed.
Right. Yeah, I think we're just we're thin this evening, that's all.
But I'm wondering.
And I'd like to say that our agenda is so short, and that if we do find out this is a problem, or if anyone says they were unable to get in, we can duplicate the agenda at next month's meeting, starting with the items I have on here. So nothing will be lost.
Thanks for letting us know, Doug.
Thank you, Doug. And I see Chuck's hand is up. Yes, Chuck.
Dan, are we still on public comment?
No,
Where are we?
No, I'm not- oh, well, okay, excuse me.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are, Chuck, excuse me.
May
I lost my head.
I bring up another point?
2 minutes, sir, yes.
All right,
Go ahead.
talking about trees, Westmont Drive, between Gaffey and,
Berrywood,
no. The school's Taper Avenue.
Paper Avenue, yep.
There are, I didn't even count the trees, but there are about 10, 12 trees missing or dying on that planting also. So going at the next meeting, I don't have time to deal with it because of my China shipping obligations that we're working on.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's to be something that we should put on the agenda to handle in the future.
Very good. Well, I think we will, for the time being, keep these tree items, of which there are now 2, keep those together under our aegis until we decide to pass them off somewhere else. I appreciate it, Chuck. It certainly has come up in the past. And in my resolve to begin to bring some of these issues to fruition and find completion, we'll certainly put that on the agenda. Hello, David.
Had a little problem here. We're in. Cynthia's on her way.
Oh, okay. You were, did you have a problem with the link, David?
Oh, I had the wrong number. I had the number from the Northwest website, which was wrong. And I
Okay.
called John, and he gave me the number. Sorry about that.
Oh, good. I'm glad you called John Barbera. Did you hear the boisterous Italians in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Very good. Glad you were able to get in and Cynthia's able to get in and we have more than a quorum now, so. David, I said that if anybody really misses out anything because of this wrong number tonight, we can duplicate these agenda items for next month because they're really part of an ongoing discussion for the most part.
And I just checked the homepage calendar and it's the same mismatch that's on the agenda.
So will that be, what happens?
The link itself is the correct link. However, if people type in the one that's down below on the agenda, which is also down below on the web page, then that is a different number, different webinar ID, just like Doug was saying.
Oh, okay. Well, David, I'm glad, and thanks to John Barbera for getting you in and Cynthia when she joins us. So with that in mind, I think we can go ahead. Oh, wait, oh, hi, Cynthia. Cynthia's there. Good.
So
Excellent.
we do have a quorum now.
Good. Then let's proceed. We heard public comment on a couple of tree issues from our colleague Chuck Hart, and those are issues that can be looked at for future meetings, on the agenda for future meetings. I want to have a discussion. I say this sometimes, and I really mean it. I want to have a discussion with the committee. And this is item 3. In preparing for this town hall, which is going to occur on Thursday, and please do come. It's at 6 o'clock Thursday, same channel, same station, probably, hopefully with the right link number. In preparing for that town hall, John Barbera and I, and probably others, have been looking at the process for funding of activities and repairs and infrastructure in city parks. And really would apply to all the parks, but certainly those with recreation centers. And we're learning a lot. It's kind of a dense, thick process, but we're learning a lot. And we need to look to our sister or brother neighborhood council in Coastal, where they do a good job of citing a need or creating something that is important to the community and going after it through a process. And I must say, Chuck Hart has been very good at this over the years, and some of our other colleagues on the committee have been good at this, and I have been not that good. But I want to go back to the basics and start asking the city to do things for our community. It may, the things that we ask for may well benefit other communities as well, but we need to dig into the process and become active participants in budgeting and expenditure planning and program planning and that sort of thing. And I don't expect that we'll be involved in everything. That would be very difficult. So what I have on the agenda here is a discussion of what kind of project we might look at as a priority for us in Northwest. And this is really separate from the issues of security and safety that we will be hearing about at the town hall. I shouldn't say it's separate. It's not separate. Everything is integrated. And it all comes down to money, of course. But what I wanted to get is your feedback on the idea of us pursuing a project or a piece of infrastructure or a program that we think would be important to Northwest, that we would like to pursue for as long as it takes to get some action. The one really solid thing that I talked about here is rebuilding the Peck Park pool. To me, it's sad and beyond disappointing that that apparently we can have only one public pool, or however many there are now, in this neighborhood, in this San Pedro community. I'd like to hear some feedback from folks about whether you agree that this is a priority or could be a priority for us. Is it something that we regard as important? And what else do we see going on, or do we see need for in the community? We know full well there's a need to tend better to trees in the community, for instance. But what we've been doing is talking to a couple of departments about how the budgeting process works, about who puts together numbers, and about what we need to do to be more proactive to see things come to fruition. As I understand it, the rebuilt pool in Coastal there at Angels Gate cost in excess of $12 million. And if I'm off, let me know. It was a huge project. It took years to come to fruition, but it finally did. But during the time that it was coming to fruition, and ever since it's open, Peck Park Pool has, it deteriorated and has been abandoned. However, as I said to someone the other day, at least with the Peck Park Pool, it's not from scratch because you got a hole in the ground. So you've got a beginning. And Peck Park Pool was a key resource for this community all the time that my kids were growing up, which now is coming up on 30 plus years ago. And I know in the meantime, the Hay rookie pool at Angels Gate deteriorated and was closed for decades. Well, I don't know. I think it's time to say to the city, hey, we got that one pool and that's great. How do we go about putting together a financial package to rebuild Peck Park? So that's just one thought. There are plenty of issues in our parks that don't require millions of dollars, but do require a financial commitment, which has not been forthcoming from the city. And we definitely like to think about that moving forward. What is it that we see as most important in the parks? Not just the big parks, but the little ones as well. And I'd like to hear some of your thoughts about whether we regard parks and recreation centers as important, and whether we would like to proceed with this project or some other project. I apologize. A business contact is texting me. I got distracted. Forgive me. If I could shut it off, I would. Anyway, I'd like to hear some thoughts from all who are here with us. And I see
attendees.
I see John DeMeglio has joined us. And Rhiannon, our student, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, our student from the last meeting we were in. Delighted to see Rhiannon back. And correct, and please tell me if I'm saying your name incorrectly. And in the meantime, I see Doug Epperhart's hand up. And so I'd like to do a general discussion, but let's start with Doug Epperhart.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things on the Hay rookie pool got done because of the China shipping mitigation money.
Uh-huh.
That was, I think they put in $10 million of it. And that basically is why that project happened. One of the other things that Rec and Parks had said about the pool at Peck Park was it was also a staffing issue, that they don't have staff to do two pools, which is something you might hear from them. Now, here's the other thing, though, that I have said to my neighborhood council. We will be having a new council member within about 6 weeks, I think. They take office. And I suggested to my neighborhood council, I said, get together the list of stuff, the priorities for us, so that when that new individual takes office, we can go to them and say, okay, here's the coastal San Pedro wish list. These are the projects that we want to prioritize and see that are done. I mean, part of the reason we've been effective is because we just pretended we didn't have a council member the last few years and developed direct relationships and found funding for things and whatnot. It's a lot of work. But one thing you might want to think about is develop your list, and so that, when the new person comes in, say, here it is.
Yes, Doug, thank you. That is excellent input. And the phrase we used most recently was we need to hit the ground running with the new council member.
Yeah.
The wish list or the demand list or whatever you want to call it I agree, is a vital first step. And I appreciate you wording it that way. And that's kind of what I'd like to talk about tonight. I do understand that the budgeting process, which we have a city budget representative, each neighborhood council does. And they will certainly be involved in hearing about the budget process. But we were told that the best time, the most important time to be ready to submit information like this, as far as the departments are concerned, not the council office, which is, as you say, Doug, day one of the new term, but the budgeting process for 2023, 24 really moves in earnest from January to March. So that's certainly a point at which I would like to be ready to, if it's to submit a list or to send one item that we want to be involved with, that's when we want to do it. So thank you, Doug.
Actually,
That-
Yeah,
that was
actually,
good.
just real quick, budgets, departments are writing their budget requests right now.
Yes, I
So,
understand that.
sooner the
They're
better.
writing them now, but public input and additions can be, actually are expected early in the new year. So I'm not contradicting you at all. It just, it's something we need to start thinking about right now and focus on in the next couple of months, to be ready, as you say, to meet the new council member head on, not in a confrontational way, but in a perhaps slightly more urgent way than we have in the past. Thank you, Doug. Cynthia, I see your hand up. Hello, Cynthia. Oh, and then John.
Cynthia, I need to unmute. Cynthia, you need to unmute.
While Cynthia's unmuting, John DeMeglio, I saw your,
Can you hear me?
yes, I saw your handsome
Again,
face.
for some reason, I can't put my hand up. It's not allowing me to put my
Oh,
hand
okay.
up. I
Well,
don't know why.
I saw your hand in the image, so
Yeah, I use my own hand.
that's fine.
I scanned down where it says to more, and that's where usually I can put my hand up, but it's not allowing me for some reason.
Oh, that's
And
odd.
also the when I clicked on the meeting from the website, it didn't allow me to come in, so I didn't know how to get in. I've been trying to get in. Matthew finally talked to John Barbera, and the wrong codes are on that deal. to
Yes,
get
John,
in.
we have been talking about that, and that will
Yeah.
be corrected. I'm glad you were able to get in. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah,
Glad you were able to get in,
Matthew's
and
gone. But my thing is with this pool, and we've talked about it. Matthew's talked about it. Matthew's a product of Peck Park Pool. Without Peck Park Pool, he wouldn't have got his job with the city. Without Peck Park Pool, he wouldn't have been in the junior lifeguards and stuff like that. It's really important to our community. And as long as I've been involved in this process, Joe Buscanino's been nowhere to be seen. And if we don't have somebody that backs us up, it's all a waste of time. It's all 100% waste of time. So for somewhere and somehow, we got to get a council person that actually gives us the time of day. And I don't see it happening. That's my thought on this.
thank you, John. As we know, we have a limited choice, but we do have two options in November. But I do think that Doug's point is good, and in fact, we've kicked it around in the town hall ad hoc meeting about hitting the ground running on these issues with the new council person. So that's got to be a priority for us, I believe. And I hear you, John. I hear you. We've talked to the city enough about the pool in the past to to be thoroughly discouraged about it, but times are changing. And I think it's time to work with the new administration in the council office and just work with the new, I think the new feeling afoot in the city that it's time for some of the stakeholders to assist the city in making some of these budget decisions. So thank you.
Yeah, 100% agree with you.
Thank you. I see Chuck's hand. I'm sorry, Cynthia. Are you with us?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, Cynthia, glad to have you here. We'll hear from you and then Chuck. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay. Did you hear what I had said before?
No.
Oh,
Sorry. Maybe
You were-
somebody
You
did.
were
I didn't.
muted the entire time.
Yeah, you were mute.
okay. What is the age of the pool again? I had a question on that.
Peck Park Pool. Younger than me, but old. But
What I mean is, is it, the other question I had was, do we know how many people were really using it, or were just a few people using it for the amount of money that we might be having to put into it?
Well, that's
Those
a
are just
good.
some questions I thought we needed to ask
Yeah.
out and
Well-
get collected.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I think if we do decide that this is something we want to pursue, those are the kind of questions we do want to ask. You're right. You're right.
And then the last thing I wanted to say was the park can be used for disaster posting. I mean, in case something happens, you could bring in your ambulances and your response people there. If something really big happens. That's what they could be used for
You mean parks in general?
in general.
Oh, certainly. And I'm assuming somebody in the crisis planning centers of the city have that in mind. I
Correct.
sure hope so.
We just were asking what they can be used for other than parks or as a park. So
Okay. Yeah,
that
well,
was it.
certainly it's a relevant question. So I think good points. Good points. So the idea of a community pool in a place where there has been one for well over 50 years, probably 60 years. Chuck, do you remember how old it is? You've been here probably the longest.
No, I don't.
Well, the pool has been there for many, many years. And it was used as the main San Pedro swimming pool for a long time. And what bothers me, I think, is that they allowed the staffing issue to forgive the expression, trump every other issue here. And staffing is something that I think is one of the things we need to be involved with in terms of how the city operates. And my statistic du jour is that there are 431 parks, pick a number. There are over 400 parks in the city of Los Angeles, of which many have recreation centers and recreation activities and are staffed for that sort of thing. There are a total of 30 park rangers for the entire city. And the area in which we live is I think the Southwest region. It's headquartered on Palos Verdes Drive North there on the way down to 5 Points. Ken Malloy Park is their main meeting area. That's where the staff, the park rangers meet every morning before they're deployed out into the district. But the Southwest region, as I understand it, extends from Point Furman to the 10 freeway on the north side and extends from somewhere west of downtown to La Brea Avenue on the west. And I got to say that that's not many people to cover the many activities that go on in these parks. In fact, we were told that the director of, not the director of Peck Park, but the director of the Southwest region can count on exactly 1.5 rangers in their district, in the whole district at any given point. So I didn't mean to turn this into just that, but that's an indication to me of a simply ridiculous, almost non-existent level of staffing to protect and to maintain the integrity of a lot of public property. And so I think staffing is a huge issue. And with all the city has a lot on its plate, there's no question. But I personally believe, and this is advocacy, I guess, I think that parks serve everyone in the city. Parks provide respite and recreation for everyone in this city, and they need to be maintained just as our national parks do, at the highest level of excellence. And they're being shortchanged now. And I think the issue of staffing and where money goes in various departments really needs to be looked at seriously, with the notion of increasing the number of people available to protect and maintain these parks. So that's my rant for the evening, I hope. I see Chuck's hand again, please. And if I'm missing any hands up, somebody, oh, okay, John, we'll get back to you. I see your hand up. You're doing a good job of keeping your face up on the screen. I see your hand. Chuck, you're next.
Okay.
Yes, Chuck.
To pick up on your reasoning about many people use these parks, it's too bad. I don't know how the neighborhood councils work. I know they have their own separate interests by area. They're designed that way. I know they're designed that way. But in this case, it seems like it would be very useful or meaningful or more powerful on a Peck Park issue if we could join together with all our San Pedro neighborhood councils on this one issue of the park, because it does serve many people. It does serve all of San Pedro. It even extends beyond San Pedro. So maybe we should be looking into that to get a sign on by not just us, Northwest, but all of San Pedro and maybe even Harbor City that have used the park in the past and said, we miss it, we need it. We have more people now in community than we did back then when it was being used. So there's even more of a need. Anyway, that's my point. Hope we can.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. Anybody else? Well,
Good
so,
job.
John, wait, Chuck took over the screen. John
I had
DeMaglio,
that,
go
yeah.
ahead.
You
Go
know
ahead.
what Chuck said is 100% on the money, and yourself too, Dan. I'm gonna talk from experience, okay? I was a merchant seaman. My wife was home by herself. We used Peck Park for childcare. We used Peck Park for after-school care. We used Peck Park for the pool. And to answer Cynthia, they had relays, swimming relays. They had swimming competitions of different kinds. They had adult swimming, senior citizens classes. They had so many things. And it was just, my son did at Peck Park, he did the karate classes, different classes they offered, and little by little, I seen them all start to dwindle down to nothing. And COVID didn't help either. But you know, it's part of our community, and people do need it. It's a need. People need it. And that pool was just the staffing they had. They went traveling around to the relays, the swim teams and stuff. They went traveling around to other pools. They had different Parks and Recs, and they all met at certain pools all through the whole summer. It's just a sad thing that they have to shut it down or they can't repair it. It is, like Chuck said, it's part of our community, and it's missed right now, and it's needed more so than Hey Rookie. Hey Rookie doesn't provide nearly as much services as Peck Park had. You know, it's huge, and we need to get it back. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, John. John, did they give actual swimming lessons at Peck Park?
Yes, swimming
They did.
lessons, and then to get down at the to get involved in the junior lifeguard program at Cabrillo Beach, you had to go to Peck Park Pool to take your swimming test. Yeah, it was a
see.
timed test to get
Yeah.
in. You had to do certain things to get in. They use Peck Park Pool. It's all connected, you know, and everything was out there to benefit families, and it's a big loss. It's a huge, that pool. I mean, they still have the child care. They still have I think they still have the afternoon care and stuff like that. But the swimming pool was a major part of the summer program.
True, for this whole area of the city. You're right. I think so.
Yeah.
Very well. Well, I'm not sure what I'm hoping to achieve tonight, except maybe a general consensus that something like the Peck Park Pool is a community resource that we'd like to see reinvented or reworked for the benefit of the community. And it's a lengthy process. It does require a lot of money, but there is grant money around that can be sought. And I suspect that that's something we can research along with other forms of monies. And I personally think it's something we ought to look at. So I think I'm hoping, and I'm not sure we need to take formal action here, but I'd like to make this a regular agenda item and stay in touch with the Department of Recreation and Parks about timing of advocacy for this, and just see how far we can go. And I'd love also to bring in other neighborhood councils, Wilmington and Harbor Gateway and Harbor City, to join us in this effort. I suppose one problem is, well, why should we work for a swimming pool for San Pedro when they already have one and we don't have one? So, well, let's talk. Let's open a conversation with folks. This city,
just to give you a downplay of the pool, we have the YMCA also with a pool.
yes.
Back in my day, we had the YWCA.
Uh-huh.
They had a pool for kids. So the YWCA is gone, Peck Park is gone. So we're actually behind right now.
Yeah. Well, there's the pool at the Cabrillo Youth Center. I'm not sure what its status is, but these are all things I think we need to look into and gather our resources and really take a look at it and try to help the city see how important it is, and get our hands on enough information to assist them in the budget process. And I understand it's going to be probably a multiple year effort, but if that's what it takes, I think better to start now than to wait. So now that's one thing. That's the swimming pool. And I think an almost equally important budget item is general staffing and budgeting of facilities that already exist and maintenance, repairs, that sort of thing. I would love to get us involved in having the city, well, and our town hall will bring some of this to light on Thursday. There will be some explanation of how things are, how budgeting is created in the Department of Recreation and Parks. Now, Recreation and Parks is one department in this massive city of ours, and I don't want to put the whole burden on them, but they are really kind of the end of the line retail brick and mortar institution in this city for the usage of tax monies. And so I think it's incumbent on us, and it's our right, it's our duty, and it should be our quest to hold the city accountable for how it spends these funds, and to really begin to insist that more money be dedicated to the park system in this city. And I don't want to get too specific about repairing an individual door lock, or, you know, who tore the toilet seat off the toilet or whatever. I just want to say that I think we need to assist the city in working towards more significant outlays to maintain these public treasures that we all think, I believe, are important to us. I think all of us think parks are important. So I'd like to make this a regular agenda item and talk to specific departments about, in offices and departments, about how we go about working with them to increase budgets rather than cutting back. Seeing no hands, I will say thank you. Thank you. Let's that really was my main issue for this evening. And without John here to backstop us on some of the traffic hazards that he and I have been looking at, I think I'd like to put off item number 4 probably to next month. I will suggest that we leave it till then, because John is a good resource for that. He and I actually do drive around and look at situations that we've heard about. Oh, hey, I'm reminded, for those of you who live on this side of Capitol Drive, and I don't know how many of us there are, but for years, the community has been requesting a stop sign at the corner of, and this pertains to item 4, so it's an agenda item. They've been requesting a stop sign on Capitol at that's Myler, sorry, at Myler. And the city has always rejected the idea. Well, what do you know? Last weekend, or at the end of the week, the city came and installed a stop sign, one stop sign at Myler and Gatun, at the bottom of the Myler Hill. As you come down Myler towards Capitol, the last 50 feet you cross Gatun, and there's never been a stop sign there. Well, there is now at the bottom of the hill. So that intersection is now a 3-way stop. My wife's delighted, because she thinks that when she turns onto Myler and then a short left turn onto Gatun, she'll be protected by the new stop sign coming down the hill. However, as I went out this afternoon to do some errands and pulled up to that intersection, not one, but 2 cars blew through it at full speed, having come down the hill. So there may be a stop sign there now, but for those of you familiar with that intersection, we need to be as vigilant as ever until people get used to it. I mention this because I'm, as a stakeholder, not necessarily as a committee member here, as a stakeholder, I'm going to send a letter to our good friend Crystal Killian at LADOT, only because hers is the name I know, asking what process occurred that put that stop sign on somebody's list and somebody's agenda. Because I don't know if any of you have any idea, but it came as a complete surprise that they've now installed that stop sign after all these years. It really doesn't resolve the main issue that the neighbors have, but there it is. And so I'm going to send a friendly letter asking what the process was that resulted in that stop sign being installed. That's the kind of thing that happens around here more often than we want to think, perhaps. And
Dan?
yes, David.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the DMV might have had something to do with that, because you know that they take all these drivers for driving tests through there, and they've probably had some close calls when they got to that stop sign, and people just flying by, like you say. But needless to say, they might have had something to do with it. Now that you got that stop sign, but they're still blowing it, you know.
Yeah, it's going to be a training period of time to get people
Yeah.
to know it's there. But at this point, it provides no safety for anybody because nobody knows it's there. David, that's why we have. I love this committee. People think about things, and that's probably a pretty solid thought. But I'm going to write to DOT and see if they can provide any light on this subject. It is almost 6 o'clock. And I think unless somebody has something additional to add in the form of mini public comment here at the end.
Doug's got his hand up and so do I.
Pardon me, Victor?
Doug and I both have hands up.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. You're the judge. Who was first? You were Doug.
Oh, Doug was definitely first.
Okay, sorry, Doug. Didn't mean to ignore you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Just a note, Crystal Killian retired like a year ago.
Okay. She's
We
still on
will, I don't have the new guy's name with me right at the second, but I can email it to you.
Thank you. I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mentioned her because she's still on the city list.
Yeah, I know, but she, like I say, she retired like a year ago.
Well, good.
Yeah, we had the new guy at one of our meetings, I
Oh,
don't
good.
know, 3 or 4
Okay.
months ago. A very nice guy, but I'll get his name for you.
Thank you, Doug. Very helpful. Thank you. Okay, Victor and then Chuck.
My only comment was another example of that stop sign, that new stop sign you were talking about. A while back, they apparently out of the blue installed, I don't know if it was a 4-way or if it was just a 2-way, or well, 3-way or 2-way, but at the intersection, not technically in San Pedro, I don't think. I think it's considered RPV or the 90732 part of San Pedro, but Stonewood Court and Mount Shasta, I believe, is the intersection. And same thing happened, people were just blowing through it because they didn't know it was there. So I don't know how much outreach they do leading up to that to notify the locals that there's stop signs going in, but I never heard about it until, I blew through it myself because I didn't know it was there.
I'm going to guess
people
it's
don't
zero outreach.
Yeah, that figures.
That would be a number. Thank you, Victor. It is so frustrating as a stakeholder, as a taxpayer, and as a neighborhood denizen to have things happen without any seeming rhyme or reason. Maybe what David said is true about the DMV. Maybe any number of things. But the bottom line is we now have a 3-way stop sign. Normally you think of a 3-way stop sign at a T intersection, I think. This is a 4-way with 3 stop signs. That seems kind of unusual, yet they would never consider putting the stop sign, making it a 4-way because of the turn from Capitol, people roar around that corner, and if they had to stop in the length of one home, that would probably be a problem. So, okay, we won't do that. The solution to that is to put a stop sign on Capitol. Well, we all know we've been through this before, but Victor, you're right. Everybody's right. What is the decision-making process that goes through? I guarantee you, this project was on a list somewhere in either street services or DOT or somewhere. It was on a schedule, and they just keep working until they get through the schedule. Whether they do 5 new stop signs a year or 500, I don't know what the number is, but they've got a list, and it was on a list somewhere. I'm not aware of anyone in the community asking for it in that particular area, in that direction. And so I really, as part of my new quest to find out more about how this city works and how budget decisions are made and how they dole out the monies that they have available for projects, whatever the department is, I want to get more information. And Doug, yeah, if you can send me that fellow's name, that would be very helpful. Thank you. And Chuck, see your hand up. Unmute, Chuck. Hello, there you go.
Okay, got it. I don't drive much anymore, but I just become aware, and maybe you guys already know about it, on Western Avenue, southbound, between Westmont and almost all the way back to PB Drive North. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the traffic is backed up from Westmont almost all the way to PB Drive North. And it's stop and go for about 3 or 4 signals. I'm wondering if those signals need to be retimed, or, I just wondered, maybe it should be looked at anyway. It's very good. I see people starting to pass on a right now to get those side streets. It's pretty dangerous.
Yeah. My wife and I were going somewhere on Saturday, to the dog groomer in Torrance, and we went northbound on Western. Exactly what you're talking about, Chuck, was occurring on the southbound side for no apparent reason. And it wasn't a funeral at Green Hills. We were baffled. So it's a great question. And my guess is that even the city will acknowledge that when a new development like Ponte Vista is built, that's the time to, okay, we've got the traffic, we've got the signals in, now let's coordinate them so they work as efficiently as possible. I hope that people think about that somewhere in the bureaus of the city. But that's a great question, and I see this as growing beyond my letter to DOT about that stop sign. This is the kind of thing we need to keep lists of so that we can write and get information and let our stakeholders know, here's why this is happening, and tell us what you see and what shall we do as a community about it. Thank you, Chuck. Victor?
Part of that issue could be because of a couple reasons. One, they reduced the speed limit from Westmont up to where it used, past the Green Hills, where it used to change to 35 up at the top of the, quote unquote hill. It used to be 45, now it's 35 all the way. The other thing is, I don't remember the name of the street, but it's the last cross street on Western before PV Drive North, right before that. It's a residential cross street. They put a traffic signal in there.
Yes, and
that went in because of the Ponte Vista, but that I see it often backed up both directions at that light. So that could be part of the issue with what Chuck was talking about.
Well, it certainly speaks to wanting to do a study and coordinate those lights as best as possible.
Right.
You're right, that is a new light, and it's interesting to me that, and this is my last gripe of the evening, that the city was not at all interested in putting in a stop sign at the bottom of Capitol at Myler, because it is and we've always cited it as a genuine hazard when people make a right turn there, having come down that hill. It's kind of a blind corner because there's home fencing there, and it's dangerous. So it would seem to be a good place for people to pause, to stop, and make it the turn a little easier. And the city said, no way would we ever do that. Yet, if you go up Capitol, there was always one stop sign at Brett Place. And as I think you know, the stop sign at I think it's Via Francesca or one of those, the one just below Brett Place, that was added much later. And those stop signs are, what, 300 feet apart? It's there's something fishy here. There's a double standard, and it's all about safety as far as I'm concerned. And if ever there were a place where an accident was waiting to happen, it's at Myler and Capitol. I guess we're fortunate that maybe that particular accident hasn't happened yet, but it will one of these days. Chuck, yes.
Yeah, one more item on that. And Ponte Vista isn't even open yet, basically. Can you imagine when that opens, all the traffic that want to go into Ponte Vista, going northbound? My last comment on it. Thank you.
Yes, it's the I don't know, it's the other giant shoe that's been waiting to drop since Ponte Vista was first discussed in 2005. That's what, 17 years ago. The first question was, how are you going to handle all this traffic on Western? What's it going to be like? And we're about to find out. The only good news, and we toot our own horn about this, but it did make a difference, was reducing the number of homes from 2,450 to whatever it is now, 770 some. That's the only thing that will keep Western Avenue moving at all. But you're right, it's that traffic is really going to pick up as more and more homes are open. And those new, I don't know if they classify them as townhomes or condos in an apartment building or something like that. They're going up fast. And I suspect they're selling them left and right already, even though they're just past the framing point. So it will be an adventure once again in Northwest San Pedro. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 6:08 p.m. Thank you for your input here. Much appreciated. I'm going to work on a letter or two as a stakeholder, but we have our beginning agenda items for the coming months. And I really would ask committee members and the folks, our guests, to please forward to John Barbera or me anything you see in the community that needs attending to, like that buckled sidewalk halfway almost to the top of Capitol that we are calling in a repair on. There's a dangerous sidewalk and you can't even blame a tree. There must be a tree growing underneath it somewhere, but there's no tree there. But the sidewalk is buckled up right at that first stop sign going up the hill on Capitol. So that, I think, we will call in as a repair order. And as we've said in these meetings before, and what we like to tell our students and our neighbors and everybody, if you see something that needs attending to, whether it's a couch left on the side of the road or a buckling sidewalk or a tree branch fallen in the road, call 311. call 311, just listen patiently to the mayor's message, and then wait to be instructed which buttons to push to get to who you want to talk to. They don't always respond instantly, but they do respond. And the main thing I've been told about 311 is every time somebody calls about a particular issue, they log the call. So they can tell if 20 people have called about one buckled sidewalk or one stop sign that was hit by a car in the middle of an intersection. And that does matter. That does matter. Victor.
There's also a phone app, I believe it's called My 311, where you can do the same thing.
Good.
And I've used that, and they do, at least on the app, they do keep track of past reports, and you can get a list of, you know, the reports that you've submitted, and they'll email you confirmations when you submit a report and things like that. So you can do it by, you know, verbally talking to somebody, or if you can get somebody. I don't know how their system works by phone that way because I haven't ever called. I've always used the app, but you can do it both ways.
Good. Thank you. I, not being much of an app guy, wait to speak to the human voice, and they're generally quite helpful. Whether they get results, that's another matter, but
Well, and just to come back real quick.
yeah, please.
For most of mine, it's been, you know, picking up an animal carcass on the road, and they generally do a pretty good job. You know, they claim to pick it up within 24 hours, and it's these places that where I've done the reports have been places that I drive on a regular basis, so I'm able to verify they pick them up within that time, and every time it's been within 24 hours.
Good.
At least
That's good to hear.
At least for the animal pickup, they do a good job. I don't know about other things.
That's really good to hear. Thank you. And my experience has been through all my years in San Pedro. If you can get to a live person, if you can speak to someone or look at someone across a counter in a city office, it's amazing how cooperative and helpful people can be, and the kinds of results you get. Not always perfect by any means, but if you can get through the system to a live person, you'll be pretty pleased with the results. So that's my only advice. Thank you,
And
everybody.
in general, I agree. I typically go for a live person. I've been very pleasantly surprised that going through the app has actually worked.
Well, it's this new age we live in. AI can be friendly, so that's good.
Can I ask,
Yes, John.
how do we get the connection fixed on our neighborhood council? Does Christina do that? Because
You mean the wrong number tonight?
Yeah.
Victor, do you want to comment on that?
I already verified that. The problem was that the link the link that is on the agenda, which is also the one that's on the webpage, is a valid link. It has the right number in it, but it doesn't get you immediately into the webinar. I believe it asks you for a number, and then the number that is a few lines down on the agenda and is also on the webpage is a different number, and it's the wrong number. I verified what the link should be while other people were talking, and already sent an email to Dan and John with the correct link, the correct webinar ID of what should be on the agenda. So hopefully that will be corrected by the next meeting.
Well, it'll be corrected by tomorrow.
Well,
So you're thinking
Okay.
that moving forward, this correction will solve the problem.
yes, the clicking on the link should take you directly into the meeting.
Okay.
And if you do have to type in a number, the right number should be in that line, a few lines down from the link that
Good.
you would type in.
Okay,
If you know how to read the link, you can figure out what the number is, but that's not the expectation that everybody's gonna look at that. There
right.
should be a separate line that says, here's the webinar ID, and that is on there, but it's got the wrong number on that line. So as long as it gets fixed with what I emailed you to, then we should be fine.
Victor, I'll make sure John calls you about it. Thank you. We'll get it fixed, John DeMaglio, we'll get it fixed. Apologies, if it's from our end, apologies. So,
Thank you.
It is
Thank you.
from our end.
okay, everybody. As they used to say, unless there's anything more for the good of the troop, I will say
You've
thank
got a
you all
hand up.
for joining
Got a
us.
hand up.
Pardon me,
Doug has his hand up.
Doug,
Yeah.
thank you. Go ahead,
I-
please.
Just emailed you the contact for the traffic for DOT,
Thank you.
and I sent it to your Gmail account. I hope that's the right one.
That's perfect, Doug. Thank you so much. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
That was it.
Thanks. And thanks, everybody. Are there any more hands up?
No more hands up.
Okay, then it's 6:16. Victor, if you'll end the recording. Thank you all.
Have a good night.
See you.